California's Gold is produced in association with KCET Los Angeles and is seen statewide on California Public Television. This series is endorsed by the California Teachers Association, the California School Boards Association, and the California Library Association.
California's Gold is brought to you by Ford, with a world of new ideas that make being out on the road more fun and more economical. Like Sync, the hands-free communication and entertainment system from Microsoft. It lets you order up practically anything you want to hear just by asking. And turn-by-turn navigation gets you exactly where you want to go. Ford hopes you enjoy traveling through California with Huell Hauser, perhaps in one of our remarkable new products.
Talk about a true California icon. Take a good look. During its years of operation from 1924 to 1975, over 25 million very lucky people had the opportunity to ride on her. Lots of wonderful memories. She was called the Great White Steamship, and this adventure is all about tracking her down. An adventure which took us all the way to Ensenada, Mexico back in 1999. It was an attempt not only to find her, but to rescue her. This legendary, almost larger-than-life ship that was not only historic and beautiful, but very much a part of California's gold. Well, hello everybody, I'm Huell Hauser, and this promises to be one of the most exciting adventures we've ever been on. We're on an international adventure today because we have come to Ensenada, Mexico. We're in the harbor of Ensenada. They're the big cruise ships right over there, bringing all the tourists down here. And actually, we've all come, this whole group of people has come from Los Angeles and San Diego to see a ship that's down here in the harbor. And it has to be one of the most historic ships in California, doesn't it?
I would say it's probably the most historic ship on the West Coast, definitely.
Well, let's give everybody just a little hint, because we're heading over there now on the boat. You can't get to it by land.
That's right.
How many passengers traveled on this boat in its lifetime?
We've had about 24 million passengers in a 51-year career on this ship.
From about 1920...
She started in 1924, and she sailed until September 1975.
So she had about a 50-year lifespan, right, running back and forth off the coast of California. 25 million people rode on her. She had to be one of the most, well, you said one of the most popular and historic boats in California history.
Very popular, and also I should point out during the war, World War II, she was a troop transport and carried another 820,000 people after that, the largest Army transport in World War II.
So there may be some people watching today who rode on her when they were in the Army, yep, but everybody else has even a more positive attitude toward
Absolutely.
her, because they were riding on her as a tourist, just like the tourists ride on these big ships over here now. In fact, that ship, these ships go from where? Long Beach?
These two ships leave from San Pedro. The ships in today are the Holiday, which is the Carnival Cruise Line ship here. The second ship down the channel is the Viking Serenade, which is a Royal Caribbean ship.
So they go from San Pedro to Catalina to Ensenada, back to San Pedro.
Right, they come down here to Ensenada twice a week, and they go over to Catalina once a week.
Which is very interesting, because in a way we're retracing part of the history of where we're going right now, because we might as well give it away. Where is it we're going? What is it we're going to go see over here?
We're about to go visit the Great White Steamship SS Catalina.
The SS Catalina, and right now we'll be showing some wonderful photographs and some old footage of the Catalina in service, going back and forth across to Catalina. What was it that made this ship so special?
She just had a certain magic about her. She was built in 24 for over $1 million, and they called her the $1 million ferry ship to ferry land. And the Wrigleys had bought the entire island of Catalina and then built this great white steamer, purpose-built for taking passengers over to Catalina.
So the Wrigleys built her specifically to get people back and forth from Catalina.
Exactly. I like to say she was built from chewing gum, because she came from the chewing gum empire of the Wrigleys.
And it was not an overnight trip, or, I mean, it didn't have staterooms or anything like that. It was just like a big ferry boat in a way, wasn't it?
It was a ferry boat, but it was a ferry boat with a difference. This ship still had a ballroom and a bar, so there was dancing and drinking, and a lot of celebrities would cross. If they were going to cross, they'd choose the SS Catalina generally.
Okay, so she went out of service in 1975, and what happened to her then?
Well, her story since 1975 hasn't really been a very pleasant one. She was arrested, literally arrested like a person is arrested, and then she was auctioned off in 1977 to
What do you mean arrested?
Well, they arrest a ship just like a person. They nail an arrest warrant to her mast. They send out armed guards to stand watch on her. They obviously can't haul her off to prison, but she had piled up debts that she couldn't pay with her old owners in Los Angeles Harbor. So in order to satisfy those debts, they arrested the ship.
Oh, wow, Louis, come over here and look at this. This is our first view of her. Look at this. There she is. She's kind of listing in a sad kind of a way. How did she get down here?
Well, in 1986, she was towed down here by one of the leaseors. He more or less just took her out of possession of the owners, brought her down here to avoid additional arrest and a second arrest. And she was anchored actually just off to this side at that pier. And then she was brought over to this position at the very end and started taking on water at the end of 1997. And in early 1988, she ended up in, 1998 rather, she ended up in this position.
Wow. Now this is exciting because Stacy is from the Catalina Island Museum.
Hi.
You've seen lots of pictures of the old SS Catalina. This is your first time to see her.
It's incredible. I mean, she's kind of in a sad state from out here. I'm dying to stand on her and see what she's like then. But yeah, I've been seeing pictures of her for like 9 years.
And how many people come into the museum with stories about coming over to Catalina years ago on the SS Catalina?
Oh, it has to be dozens every day that come in and remember her. We have 2 models of her, and I walk by them and hear the people talk and share their stories about coming over on it. They just love the Great White Steamer.
That's what they called it, a Great White Steamer.
Yeah.
She just had that nickname all through her career, and there was a good reason for it.
Boy, look at this. This is very poignant.
It's something to see her. It's kind of sad to see her like this, but when you see her on board, those decks that we will walk on, they're 75 years old. They're still intact. She's unfortunately in this shape with the marine growth, but all of that can be easily sandblasted off. So she's a very restorable vessel, which you'll see in just a few minutes when we board.
Oh, look. Now, how are we going to get on board?
Well, there's only one place to really board safely, and that's up on the bow. And we'll pull this boat up on the port side of the bow, where she's listing over and her railings collapsed. So we'll climb onto the bow at that point. You got to be a little bit careful because it's a little bit slippery. But then we'll be able to walk right into her saloon deck.
How deep is she sitting in the water right now?
We're in about 20 feet of water right here. Her normal draft used to be about 15 or 16 feet, so she's really only about 4 feet lower on this side than she used to be. But because she's tipped over, she's into water up to her saloon deck.
I got you.
She's listing about 20 degrees over to her port side.
Now, is that the original smokestack up there?
Yeah, that sure is. It's not the original colors that it was, but that is the original smokestack. The nice part about the Catalina is virtually everything on her is from 1924. It's a museum piece just
Look,
in
there's
itself.
the name right on the side.
Yep, there's her name board. She used to have 2 names up above the bridge too, but those have been vandalized, and we hope to get those back someday. Maybe when they see her
look at this
show.
shot, just looking straight on.
Yeah, she's still, even in this condition, she's still beautiful to me. And I think once she's scrubbed up and you paint her white again, she'll look beautiful to a lot of other people.
And she's been sitting out here like this for how long?
In the sunken state for about 1.5 years now.
Who owns her now?
The Mexican Navy is the actual owner of the ship, but the Catalina Steamship Fund will become the owners as soon as the ship is raised. So the Mexican Navy has agreed to donate the ship to the Catalina Steamship Fund for restoration and hopefully returning back to Southern California.
Yeah, we're going to get to that later. The point is, this whole group is here today because you want to raise the ship, take her somewhere back in California.
Yeah, a lot of groups are coming together to help the Catalina Steamship Fund to get this job done. So we've got a lot of diverse groups, and instead of working apart, we're trying to all work together.
So the idea is to try to raise the Catalina.
I call it the 3 R's. I want to raise, restore, and return the SS Catalina to Southern California. That's my goal.
Yeah. We're on board the SS Catalina.
Exactly.
Boy, it feels good, doesn't it?
It sure does. It's been 1 year since I was last on here.
It's solid.
Yeah, it's teak wood, all this decking, and she's not going to fall over or anything like that, and none of the decks are going to fall through.
But boy, look at this. It's just, oh, this is wood. This is the original teak.
Yes, it is. That type of wood has longevity. As you can see, it's been submerged for well over a year now, and it's still there.
And this is the original teak deck right here?
Yes, it is.
Wow. I don't know where to start. Where do we go?
Well, the deck we're on right now, this is her bow, obviously, and this deck used to be called saloon deck or B deck. They
So
had two
people
names.
would have been standing up here looking at Catalina Island.
Yeah,
over
they
here?
let you come out on the bow, and there were railings on both sides. It's still on the starboard side. It's fallen in on the port side here. And this was a really advanced ship because all the deck machinery was underneath, so the passengers could come down this stairway from the prom deck and stand out here on the bow. And the railings would just be lined as you came up to Avalon. People would want to see the Avalon Casino and the harbor. And
You've already got people going inside.
Yeah,
Is that all right?
Oh, absolutely.
Everybody, it's everybody for
We're going
themselves.
to show you the whole ship, and it's plenty of room for everybody on here. She carried over 2,000 passengers. We got room for this group.
Yeah. Okay, we are. Boy, this is a big area here.
Yeah, this was the forward part of her saloon deck. This side that we're on, the starboard side, we're high and dry, but if you look over on the port side, we're underwater.
boy.
So
Oh my God.
got a little problem over on this side.
Oh, there goes a
There's a
crab.
crab scurrying across the deck.
But look at this. Oh gosh. Now this is dramatic.
This is dramatic. It's unfortunate too, but dramatic. The sea life is taking over anywhere that the ship is wet, so you can see the mussel shells and the barnacles starting to form on her decks.
And looking through those windows at the sea, that is just.
It's pretty incredible. It's incredible to see it on this level, and there's another deck below us where you can look through the engine room hatches and see the light coming through also.
Now, what would have happened in here, in this area?
This area was primarily seating for passengers. There were rows and rows of seats through this area. The area we just passed through was like a concession stand where you could buy magazines or you could buy souvenirs of the voyage. This was primarily bench seating through this area most of her career. These shops that were, or these things that were passing on the right, these were added down here in Ensenada. It was open for about 6 months as a stores and restaurants, and so these were the shops that were added here in Ensenada when it opened in 1988.
So it sat here in Ensenada for a number of years?
It sat here in Ensenada for 15 years. Yep.
Just right here?
Yeah, just a few feet over on the dock, and then sat in this position for the last 2 years. Where it is.
Now this looks original here, these windows.
Everything in here is original.
I mean, these, well, you can't
quite
open
get
them
open,
now,
but,
but these are the original windows.
Everything you're seeing on board the ship is pretty much original, except if I say that they've added it like the shops. But,
Yeah.
Everything else, the cocktail bar in the back.
Well, I have a feeling these colors aren't original here.
Nope, that was done in Mexico, definitely.
And down, so this was
This was her ballroom right here.
her ballroom.
Yeah. The ship didn't have these panels in it. This was all open, and this was a dance floor area out in here.
So they would have had an orchestra.
They always had an orchestra during all of the crossings. That kind of diminished by the 1970s to 1 or 2 piece bands, but they had the big bands playing in here, and then they'd go over. They did night cruises in the 60s to Avalon, and in the ballroom they'd have big bands playing in the ballroom as well. So yeah, it was a real fun crossing. It wasn't just sitting in a chair for 2 hours going to Catalina.
Yeah, so Stacy, again, this must just be.
It's very emotional. It's incredible. I've seen a photo of the Don Ricardo Orchestra in that pit over there, and to see it now is it's incredible.
Well, now when people come in your museum and tell you stories, at least you'll be able to say that you've been on board her.
Yes, exactly. I'll have my own personal connection to it.
Yeah. Well, what's out here?
Well, if we keep going aft, we'll go into the cocktail
Boy, this is
bar.
strange. We're just kind of walking.
It does. It feels like you're on a haunted house or something.
After a
walking
while, it
inside.
gets a little strange in here.
Yeah, if you can ignore the colors, much of this is the same original bulkheads. Watch your step where it might be a little slick down here.
Look down here. Boy, that is really
One of the most extraordinary views, I think, of the ship. The view is just extraordinary.
With the
looking
water
up the
and
saloon deck. You can see exactly how the water's coming in. And at this angle, it looks like the water's crooked, but of course the water's level and we're crooked.
And here we go up
Yeah,
here. Oh, this was the bar.
This was her cocktail bar. Now, this was actually added in 1960, so it was not original, but this originally was open-air seating without the windows, but in 1960...
But they would have been, come on, Stacy, let's sit down over here.
Benches here.
This is where the tourists going over to Catalina.
If you wanted to have a drink, you'd sit back here and have a drink and sit on these benches. They had padding on them, of course, and bar stools around the
Look
bar.
down here, Louis. You can see them all the way down, these wonderful benches.
There's a few of the outdoor original benches left on board, but most of those have been vandalized and removed from the ship.
Yeah.
But this is probably the most original area on the ship since it was redone in 1960. So this goes back quite a ways even now.
So let's, well, I keep thinking the ship's going to go over.
Well, we hope not.
No, not anytime soon. And here's the bar. Now this would have been...
This was the very stern of the ship. You're almost all the way aft, and her flagpole is right in front of us here. So this is where the American flag would flutter off the stern as you went across the channel over to Avalon. Still intact, still original.
This is the original flagpole.
Yep, still goes all the way back. When this was open air, of course, this just stuck out. Now they had to make windows cut away so that it'll fit around the
So this
flagpole.
whole area was open air.
Way back in the 20s it was, up until 1960, that's right.
So there have been different configurations of it over the years.
A little bit of modification, but not a whole lot. This is one of the very few areas that was modified.
Yeah. Okay, we're looking for the, what was it you said? The green, the stairs going down into the green water?
Yeah, similar to the movie Titanic.
All right. Watch your step, Louis. This is getting slippery. Oh, wow, there it is. These are steps?
Yeah, they're still going down there. You can see the sea anemones growing on them, and you see the
what's
windows
beneath
down
us? What's beneath us?
That was the main deck down there where the lifeboats were and some of the staterooms.
Now, when you talk about staterooms, what staterooms?
Well, she had, even though she carried day passengers for 2-hour crossings, she originally was built with 10 staterooms on the main deck, the lower deck below us. And then she also had the Wrigley suite, which was up on the deck above us. So there were cabins for the passengers that wanted to have
The rich people.
No, more or less, yes.
Some that wanted to lay down and not dance all the way over.
And here is this wonderful view again. I'm tempted to try to go out. Come on, fellas.
It's actually not too bad a footing on the barnacles.
Oh, we're stepping on barnacles.
Those are barnacles. You can still see one of her windows is intact across the way. She basically needs to be sandblasted and cleaned up and get those windows cleaned up. But that's her deck, just like we were standing on the other side.
The teak deck.
Teak deck underwater. Actually, the upper deck was hemlock. These decks were hemlock rather than teak.
And you can look up here and see all the original wood up here. This
and
is
you can see the wiring is old 1920s style wiring.
Yeah.
She won't be able to run again because of the safety regulations now, but she still has all of this intact equipment from 75 years ago. It's amazing.
Gentlemen, I've got an update. The Coast Guard has just arrived and were ordered off the ship. Apparently, although we sent the paperwork forward, there was a disconnect between the higher up and the Coast Guard, so they kind of want us off the ship.
So we have to leave.
Yeah, you can film a little bit more, but we're going to have to leave pretty soon.
Wow, we're being thrown off.
Which is
Yep.
actually good.
Well, that happens.
Which is actually good because we know that the ship is being protected. Vandals are less likely to come up now because it's being guarded.
Well, let's quickly go up to the top. They're going to let us go up here. Well, let's go up this way. Come on, Louis. Being thrown off. Oh, boy, this is wonderful here.
Yeah, you can just see the cannon. Once you get used to it, you're used to walking on board. When we both stepped aboard, we were kind of stumbling about, but once you realize you're walking at a 20-degree angle, it's not a problem. Just pretend it's rolling. It's rolling in the sea swells on the way to Catalina.
It was big, wasn't it?
She was big for her time, and for that kind of service, yeah, she was huge. She's not big compared to a cruise ship, but she's certainly big for a ferry.
Here's the grand staircase. Oh, boy, this is strange walking up this thing.
It is.
I feel like we're going over.
You want to kind of...
Whoa. Oh, wow, look at this. Now this really has a feel to it up here. This is great.
Well, it's great, but it's sad at the same time, remembering what it used to be and trying to imagine it back on an even keel.
Yeah. But you can really get the sense of what it must have been like to stand out here.
Well, not only the sense, I did stand out here. I sailed under in '75, and this was all benches. I've got photographs over with just row after row of bright blue benches sitting along here, and happy passengers just on their way.
Would she have been packed just like the ferries are today that go over to Catalina?
There were times when she was packed, and sometimes she wasn't so busy, but generally, yes, she was packed. And she was the only ship. Now there's ferries all kinds of times of the day, but at one time she was the only thing going across. So you took this or you took nothing.
Now where's the Wrigley suite?
Right in front of us. We're on the same deck.
So the Wrigleys would actually stay in this, or was it just named the Wrigley?
No, it was built by, the ship was built by William Wrigley, the chewing gum magnate.
Right.
And he built a cabin for himself, which is what we're going to step into in just a second.
And wait a minute, let's just look out here for a second, because this is where, well, this is where we got on, but they would have been, passengers would have been standing
Can walk around
all the way across, and would have been standing all the way back to the very back deck back here too. So this whole area would have just been filled with people.
On a crowded day, this would have been filled with people, and you see publicity pictures with the ship's orchestra and the officers standing up on top of the bridge.
Where, right up here?
Yeah, right above us. That's the ship's wheelhouse. So the Wrigley cabin's on this level, and the wheelhouse is right above us.
Can we go in the Wrigley cabin?
Sure.
What would have been in here?
Mr. Wrigley.
Oh.
Yeah, this would have been Wrigley's cabin, and there was a little bar. He had these nice cushioned benches.
Oh, love.
And it's quite a large cabin for such a small ship. There's really quite a lot of room in here.
You see some of the old paneling up here. It was a lot
Yeah,
fancier.
the original ceiling. A lot of the ceiling's gone, but you can see the original here, like Bruce pointed out.
So this wasn't really a sleeping cabin. This was just a...
Well, they could, but it was a short trip, so
Yeah.
but if they wanted to sleep, they could sleep there.
Wow. And you think these are original?
Those are definitely original. Yeah,
Really?
those are original benches.
Well, we can sit on those. Come on, Stacy. Come on over here. You ought to be able to tell the people in the museum that you sat on one of Mr. Wrigley's benches.
I can't wait to tell them. This is amazing. I'm just in awe. We're repairing one now.
Sit down, fellas.
She just needs a little putting back together.
Yeah.
He had various times, most of the time he had carpet in here, and there's some remnants of the things that they did in Ensenada, but it obviously doesn't look as good as it once did, but hopefully someday it'll look that good again.
Yeah. Okay, are these the guys over here?
Yeah, I would say so. I'd say those are the guys.
These are the federales over here. I don't want to wave. Let's just go on and do what we got to do. Hopefully we'll get through before they throw us off. Watch your step here, Louie. Now see, this is amazing. Even though all the things that have happened to it over the years, all of this is still here.
Yeah, all of this is mostly original equipment. The chart table is absolutely original. This is the wheelhouse. The part that's missing is the wheel, but we have that. That's preserved in the Catalina Island Museum.
Ah, Stacy.
Yes.
You got the wheel.
Yes, we do have the wheel.
Now, how did you get the wheel?
That's actually a good question. We've had that wheel for many, many years.
So somebody just...
I kind of know how it was removed in 1976 when the ship was laid up at Terminal Island, Long Beach, California, and the wheel was donated to the museum, so it's over there, and it's beautiful. It's all wood with inlaid SS Catalina 1924 on the bottom.
Boy.
This is our port bridge wing, and then you can see Ken getting his paint samples back there. And from the bridge deck, that was the promenade deck below, and they had little ticket offices on the side for little excursions to the island. And this normally wouldn't be rolling over like this unless it was very heavy weather, but...
And there's the part of our group that got scared off by the federales. Hey, you may have to bail us out a little later on. Well, the adventure's almost over, and we haven't introduced the main man. Introduce yourself to everybody.
I'm David Engholm, president of the SS Catalina Steamship Fund.
And this is the guy who single-handedly... You got interested in saving this old ship.
I sure did.
Why?
Because I love the ship, and there's many memories in the ship. 25 million people rode it. My grandmother rode it. I rode it as a baby, infancy, right up till the last year she ran, 1975.
Well, you've bitten off a big mouthful here, haven't you?
It's a big mouthful, but if we keep going at it and more people are joining us right now, I think we'll get it done.
Well, there were lots of individuals like David who wanted to save and restore the wonderful old SS Catalina. I mean, after all, this was a California ship, originally built in San Pedro, an honest-to-goodness piece of California history and folklore. But unfortunately, for lots of reasons, some of them very simple and some of them very complicated, it just wasn't to be. And in 2008 and 2009, it was scrapped. And by 2010, the old SS Catalina was completely gone. But as with most stories, there is some good news about the fate of the old SS Catalina. Because David, who was born and raised right here in California, grew up riding on the SS Catalina with his family. Here's a photo of him as a little boy with his mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother, 4 generations on board during one of their countless trips they took to Catalina. In fact, David loved the ship so much, he even got married on board her. David was one of those who tried to save the ship, but once it was clear that wasn't going to happen, he and his family salvaged a lot of remnants off the ship. Now, they had to pay for this salvage operation, but they did, and they salvaged everything, from the grand staircase to old coil vents to the actual gangplank. Then they loaded all this stuff up on trailers. Some of it stayed in Ensenada with David's brother-in-law and his family. The rest was taken all the way up to Coos Bay, Oregon, where it's been restored and is part of David's house. Everything from original signs from the Catalina, a restored door from the pilot house, some of the original seats and benches. There's memorabilia all over the house, including this piece of metal with David's grandmother, who first rode the ship in 1924, posing beside it out by David's house. It was a lot of work, and David and his family deserve a lot of credit, because even though the ship is now technically gone, through his efforts, and also, of course, the exhibit at the Catalina Island Museum itself, the old SS Catalina is, in a way, still very much with us. And along with the memories, reminds us all that the SS Catalina was here, and was and still is very much a part of California's gold. Well, hello everybody, I'm Huell Hauser, and there's no question about it. The old SS Catalina was definitely a California icon. And if you'd like to go on this Catalina adventure again, share it with family or friends, or more importantly, donate a copy to your local school or library, because this is California history at its best. Well, it's available on DVD. All you have to do is call 1-800-266-5727, and we'll be glad to send it to you right away.